Welcome to Talk Dirt to Me, where two farmers shatter myths and take on the top issues facing America's farmers. Here's your hosts, Logan and Bobby Lee.
What's going on, everybody? All right, this is a very different and really special episode. So Bobby Lee and I, we just got back from the American Farm Bureau Convention in Anaheim, California, and we wanted to share that episode with you because we thought it was really awesome. So we were fortunate. We got to be on the cultivation stage, which is kind of the main stage at the convention. And we did about 20 to 25 minutes of just me and him. We kind of talked about some topics. And then we took questions from the audience, which, we love to do that. Just like we love you guys writing in emails to us and asking us questions. We did that live in Anaheim. So it's really awesome. We'll tell you all about California and our thoughts on that in the next episode. But this episode is our live episode from the Farm Bureau Convention. We greatly appreciate them having us there. We hope you guys enjoy this episode. Like I said, it's me and Bobby Lee for the first half. And in the second half, we're joined by Joby Young, who is the Executive Vice President of the American Farm Bureau. We talked to some great topics. Very timely topics. And guys, I do want to encourage you before we jump in to do three things. First, we need you to go to agzaga.com and use the code TALKDIRT20 on any order over $50 or more. That's going to save you some money. Go on there, do that. AgZaga has been with us a long time. They're great folks. Next, leave us 5-star ratings wherever you tune in. Apple, Spotify, leave us 5 stars. And please hit the follow button, guys. Let's drive our follower numbers up. The show is really growing, but help us out there. Lastly, we want you guys, also want you, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe, comment below, and let us know what you think of the episode. Now, lastly, guys, if you are not a member of the Farm Bureau, your state has one. Join it. It is the largest voice of the American farmers. And you'll listen to this episode and you'll hear why. Bobby Lee and I both are believers after this, and we're going to get more involved ourselves. But guys, do that. And let's jump into this episode. Hope y'all enjoy. Thanks.
Afternoon, Brady from Nebraska. For the next hour or so, we've got kind of an exciting live podcast going on. Joining us are Bobby Lee Hanks and Logan Hanks, who are the hosts of the hit agriculture podcast, Talk Dirt to Me, and they will be recording live here with us today. A little later in the episode, they're going to be joined by Executive Vice President of American Farm Bureau Federation, Joby Young. So with that, let's welcome Logan and Bobby Lee to the stage.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Logan.
Yeah, and I'm Bobby Lee, and I guess we'll talk dirt to me.
Yeah, so some of you are probably wondering who we are, and we're two West Tennessee boys, lifelong farming family. And I'm a row crop farmer, about 1,300 acres of corn and soybeans.
Yeah, and I'm the cattleman, I guess. Logan likes to call me a cowboy sometimes. I'll point out I'm no cowboy. I'm a cattleman, but also a veterinarian. I will point out I'm a companion animal veterinarian. Of course, work on our own, but I used to joke that I worked on dogs and cats all day so that I could afford to play with cows at night and on the weekends. And of course, here in the last year or so, we're actually making a little money in cattle. So, hey, that's a pleasant change. But
yeah, it switched from row crop making money to cattle making money, and we're feeling the pain on the row crop side.
Yeah, unfortunately, but we're excited to be here. We were talking a lot of firsts for the two of us this weekend. First time in California. This morning was the first time I'd ever been in a Tesla.
Yeah.
This first time we've ever done the podcast in a room with more than 4 people. So here we go.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to talking to you guys. we're going to keep this good and clean. We've told them, they've warned us, please, it's family friendly. We said, well, of course.
Yeah. Poor Morgan, she's been working with us for the last month, putting this together. And I'm afraid she's about as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs right now. But we assured her we can keep it clean. So, we appreciate everybody listening to us, subscribing, all that good stuff. We'll warn you on a regular podcast. We talk like a couple of guys on the farm, so we use our working words sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what we try to just relate. I mean, we both have our boots in the dirt, and that's kind of one of our bread and butter is we'd like to do listener questions as well. We get a lot of emails and write-ins on that. But, the big topic right now that a lot of people, especially myself on the row crop side, we're kind of facing is the farm economy. And it's no secret that things are pretty tough on the row crop side. And, we've been facing historic years back-to-back now of bad. It's just we had bad prices, high costs, and a drought in our area in West Tennessee in 25. So, like I said, it's been one of our big topics here lately.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, cattle, it's hard to complain as a cattleman right now. Feeder cattle prices, we're the sun's finally shining on us a little bit, but it's also kind of sad when we look at it that way and we think, well, hey, we're finally making a little money, and it's like, well, goodness, how many industries are willing to look at it like, yeah, we're willing to just barely scrape by, year after year, and then it's a pleasant change when we finally make a little money. But yeah, cattle has been no complaints currently.
Yeah, except I just can't get into the cattle industry right now because prices are so high.
Yeah, I guess that's the other big thing. A lot of our audience, like Logan said, we take a lot of questions, a lot of young folks in ag, a lot of young folks wanting to get in ag, which is fantastic. That's what we need. But yeah, there's a lot of interest from a lot of people seeing cattle prices right now wanting to get in. And again, when we get that question all the time, I'm like, I don't know that now's a great time to get in, other than you do see some of the older generation seeing the opportunity to get out. And so, maybe in some instances there is an opportunity for guys to pick up some pasture ground and things like that. But, buying a herd of mama cows right now is, it's definitely a seller's market.
It is. So, it's a different episode for our normal audience, but we're excited. Curious, we want to get a little feedback from the audience because we're here for you guys. And so we'd love to know, do we have any questions or topics that you'd like to hear us talk about right now? Come on, give us something. Somebody out there, throw a question our way. We want to cover
anything, nothing's out of bounds.
Yeah, there is no stupid questions. I think we got one right here.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
My question is just, as someone who's I'm going to say successful in the podcast industry, what advice would you give to your everyday farmer and rancher who wants to start their own podcast?
Well, it's a great question. And we've been doing this, I guess, now for 4 years. We started in October of 21. And we think, as several of the other speakers have already said, I think it's more important than ever now to share your message as a farmer, because one of the main reasons we started this show was actually because there's so much false information out there about farmers. And so we just started it. And again, we talk very authentic. We just try to share the realities of farming, and that seems to be what resonates with everybody. So to get started, honestly, I would say just start. I don't care. And you can grow it as you go in terms of quality, but the main component right now is just to actually share the realities of it, because I think now more than ever, we're seeing that huge divide. Something like 2% of the population farms. And so we have to shift things back to where people at least have some knowledge around agriculture. It's one of the great things with Farm Bureau. They're in that policy fight trying to help us there. But, we have people making policies in Washington that have no earthly idea about farming, and they're trying to ban things maybe that we need, especially on the row crop side, and they're key components. So I think you just got to start.
Yeah, and just from kind of the nuts and bolts kind of thing, when we got started, Logan was already in a little bit of the podcast world and had been working on me. He had to work on me for about 6 months to convince me this was a good idea. And as I sit here today, I'm still not sure if it's a great idea, but here we are. So I don't know. We've come a long way, but yeah, like he said, you just got to do it. I always joke, with anything, Larry the Cable Guy, obviously a funny dude.
Great philosopher.
I always say the get her done mentality, as simple as that is. And I take that mentality into a lot of other things I do beyond just the podcast. You just got to do it. I mean, you're Nike, just do it. You just got to go for it.
Yep. Well, we got one more. We got a mic issue.
We got it now.
Oh, there you go.
You started off your talk, and I appreciate y'all putting this out there. Well, we're starting to get recognized some, but the problems with agriculture right now, do you see it tariffs, commodity prices, or corporate America taking what they know we're going to get, i.e. government payments or our price that we get for stuff? It seems like corporate America, when I say that, we're talking about who we're talking about. So what's your opinion on those? What do you see the worst enemy is?
Well, I got a lot of opinions. That's a great question, too. I got a lot of thoughts on that. In the row crop sector, I feel like several chokeholds on us, and input costs are without a doubt just outrageous. And I shared this before. 10 years ago, I could buy a good bag of seed corn for $175 a bag. This past year, my average seed cost is about $330 a bag. So in 10 years, my corn seed has gone from $175 to $330. But our commodity prices are about the same. And so somewhere in there, I'm not making the money to match my costs. And so our input costs are outrageous. Our equipment costs are outrageous. And so, we've shared, I think we're seeing a lot of corporate industry that's still booming and still making a profit while we're in an ag recession. And that's concerning to me. We want people to do well, but I feel like if the farmers are in a recession, how are some of the big input companies still rocking and rolling?
And we know some of them are struggling too. We've seen, companies having to have layoffs and things like that. And we need them to do well, obviously, but equally they need the farmer to do well. And yeah, we're pretty conflicted on, the payments, the handouts, just the negative public perception of that, farmers getting a handout. And then, like Logan has shared multiple times on our show, row crop guys, at least in our area, they're losing money. Getting that payment kind of feels good, but it's because, but you're not really seeing that money. That money's just immediately passing right through you, going to lenders, and it's hard for me to imagine, that money just being injected into the ag economy without it allowing for things to stay inflated in terms of the inputs. But yeah, I don't know. Another friend of mine has said, and another row crop guy, I'm fine selling $10 beans and $4 corn, but I can't do that with these inputs where they are. Like that, something's got to give one way or another, whether that's, opening up new markets, which is, I know the administration's been working hard on that. Obviously not getting anywhere as quickly as any of us would like. And I think, I don't know, that's probably a long game, but can the row crop guys hold on long enough for those markets to come back to us, or will they come back? We hit on, the big player now is South America, and where they, are kind of new and emerging in the crop side of things. And, have taken away a lot of our export markets. And how does that change? Because we hear a lot of older guys like, it's all cyclical. You just got to hang on, it's going to get better. But yeah, that whole South America thing is, or 20, 30 years ago, they weren't near as big of a player, and now they are. And so how does that affect, that kind of, all right, just wait for next year. Next year will be better. And is it?
Yeah, that's something I've said before. Brazil is a player in the game that used to not be much of a player in the game, and now they have entered. And payments, if I get a payment, it comes into my bank account, and about 48 hours later, it's gone. It goes from my hands to my input costs or anything else. And so I do believe a lot of the equipment and input companies have just gotten out of touch. And I know technology costs money, but I mean, as a farmer, I feel like the companies that I'm buying from have forgotten about me.
My question here is for more Bobby Lee on your cattle marketing side. Where do you think the cattle market's going over the next couple of years? And are you going to be more keeping heifers or selling heifers? And which route are you going to take with your cattle operation?
Well,
Bobby Lee said that his Ferrari is still at home from all the cattle markets right now. So
yeah, we sold some this week. It was good. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's it's $1 million question, $100,000 question. What is it? And that's the whole thing. We're finally making some money in cattle and these prices. And typically, we see this thing cyclical. Obviously, what we're hoping is, rather than it being so cyclical up and down, we can get up and kind of plateau off. And if that is true, and again, I wish I could say for sure. Yeah, I would say keeping heifers, growing that herd. Our national cow herd is as small as it's been in something like 70 years. And so I would like to think that the future, these prices should stay high. I mean, again, it's sad that we're all celebrating that we're finally making a little money. It's like, well, goodness. In my area, I'm very open. I'm a part-time farmer. The cattle are my side hustle. My bread gets buttered working on dogs and cats. But now it's like, oh wow, I'm making a little money. Like, not getting ready to quit my day job by any means, but the opportunity. I guess I was going to say everybody, just about everybody in our area that has cattle, that they have a job in town, or they're doing some row crop as well. It's just a small segment, and and I'm kind of facing a decision right now because we've traditionally, we're cow calf, and then the bulk of our operation has been stocker calves, buying those, some higher risk calves out of sale barn, grazing them for, a few months, putting some weight on them, selling them right back. But I've kind of been contemplating, shifting all my pasture ground to more cow calf. And I don't know, I do have the luxury of it is my side hustle. I can play with it more or less, but I do think, at least I hope, that there is a real future in really in all segments of it, but especially the cow-calf side.
Yeah, did you have somebody back there? I can't tell. Oh, okay, cool. I just think that in terms of ag, like one of our biggest axes we want to grind is you got to have new blood. I mean, we got to have new blood coming into the industry. And, we've had people write in and they're like, well, Logan, you need to just get you some cows to offset. And it's like, well, buying into cattle right now is if I'm hurting on the row crop, I don't have the funds to buy into the cattle right now because cattle are record high. And I think I have about 7 head of cattle. So I don't think it's going to offset my row crop losses.
Well, and the whole thing, of course, you rent a lot of ground like most crop guys in our area. You own some ground. Simply flipping a switch and saying, all right, I'm gonna convert even just that owned ground into pasture. I mean, there's a lot of startup costs, building up that infrastructure, fencing, water, everything. And I'd be glad to help you, but there's a learning curve there too. Then if you could snap your fingers and have all that ready to go. Yeah. I mean, we've made really good money in cattle this year, but when we're buying those calves out of the sale barn, I stuck my neck out there further than I ever have this year. And then thankfully the markets stayed good and we kept them alive and we made some money, but you're still taking on a good bit of risk there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just swapping essentially one risk for another. And so that's something I feel like I gamble enough already on the row crop side, but, and we're open to diverse crops, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just out of whack. I mean, our prices with our inputs, and that's what's got us hurting. So, did you have someone there? Okay, cool.
Appreciate your comments about keeping your heifers. Sounds like a real good idea. This supply shortage that we have is supply and demand in its purest form. And how long do you think it'll be before we kind of level out on our cow numbers that we have? Because we're eating our cow herd about as fast as we can raise it.
Yeah, and like you said, and I'm a big Corbett Wall fan. I don't know if anybody listens to Corbett Wall and Peter Flash. Most, I guess, Monday through Friday and day, the market's open, but he's really stressed the fact that obviously our supplies are tight. That has really helped prices, but this is still a demand-driven market. People have complained about beef prices at the grocery store. I don't know. Still there locally, I think there's incredible value at the supermarket buying beef.
Well, like you've pointed out before, people will complain about spending $6 or $7 for beef, but they'll go buy a $9 drink at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. What is more valuable?
Yeah, and I love coffee, but it's and of course the whole Maha movement and all that. There's good and bad in there. That's kind of a hot topic right now. I guess the big thing this week was the new food pyramid. They flipped it, recommending more protein. Obviously that's good for beef, but I don't know. I still think, the demand is still there. Now we do have to worry about, okay, if these prices just get to a level where the consumer does start, shifting their, buying habits to other proteins or just other food sources in general. Yeah, that's something we can't be, completely ignoring by any means.
Oh, I lost our runner. Oh, there she goes. All right, we got another one. Oh, I thought we had one right over there. Right here. Here we go. There we go.
So you've talked about some commodity-specific issues, but what do you see as the biggest challenge facing agriculture right now?
Oh, I couldn't hear good on that last part.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing agriculture right now?
Man, I think, well, for one, I'll tell you straight up, the barrier to entry is ridiculous because of the cost. And, I mean, I was fortunate, Bobby Lee's fortunate, we grew up in farming. And I have friends. I went and had lunch one time with a buddy of mine, and he wanted to figure out how to get into row crop farming. He asked me, he said, man, I want to know how much money I can make working 100 acres. And I said, well, I'll go talk to you. So we sat down, and I said, what equipment do you have? And he said, well, I don't have any equipment. And I said, all right, what land do you have? And he said, well, I don't have any land. And I said, well, the first problem is the land, because if there's farm ground out there, somebody's farming it. And it's super competitive, very cutthroat. But I said, let's assume you got 100 acres, but you're going to have to get a tractor. And I even said, let's get a cheap drill. Like, we ran through this bare bones as humanly possible, doing some custom hire work so he's not having to buy a combine, this and that. And by the time we got done with lunch, he was going to lose $10,000 a year. And so he was like, I don't think I'm gonna jump off in that. And I'm not trying to be discouraging. I'm just being realistic. And so I would say the costs are such a barrier to entry. And I mean, on the row crop side, land availability is a big deal because, again, it's very competitive. I mean, I've been working, this will be my 12th season running my own operation. And probably the biggest struggle has been growing my operation to the size it is, which at one point that increased your profit because you could scale and spread your costs. But here lately, the more scale, the more you lose. But I just think the opportunities for people to get in is next to impossible.
Well, and you shared on our last episode, kind of some numbers. We're pretty open about, maybe more so than a lot of folks are comfortable with in ag. But the amount of risk you have out there and the debt you assume I think the figure you had run, you'd make $34,000. And that was with things really going relatively well. And you're just like, my gosh, you get a job working at a fast food place in town and your only risk is driving to and from work every day.
Yeah, I think I could go work at McDonald's for a year and I'd make more working for McDonald's than I probably would as a row crop farmer working about 12 or 1,300 acres.
Now, we've also shared there's a lot of perks to it besides the money, obviously, but you got to make money to stay in business. We got an awesome guest that's joining us here. I'll scoot my chair. I can scoot it here. Yeah, we'll put him in the hot seat here in the middle. Joby Young, what's going on, man? Joby is...
How are you guys? I got my hands full here.
Hey, I get it. Joby is the Executive Vice President of the American Farm Bureau, and we're honored to have you joining us.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad you guys are here at American Farm Bureau at our convention and joining all of our members out here. I was listening to your to the prior episode you done. You talked about this is the first time you've done something like this.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We, like I said, we usually have about. It's typically me and Bobby Lee staring into a camera and nobody else.
Right.
We've had some guest episodes, but never a full crowd. So we're really happy.
Yeah, good. I don't see any tomatoes getting thrown yet. So
no,
good.
yeah, that's what I said. We might get booed off stage, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Well, obviously, I think for our listeners and a bunch of people, we'd like to just hear. First of all, give us a quick rundown. Who is Joby Young, and what is the Farm Bureau?
Yeah, so I'm Executive Vice President here at American Farm Bureau, and for plenty of Farm Bureau members here in the audience that are listening, Farm Bureau is a county, state, and national organization, and so I'm Executive Vice President of the national organization. President Zippy Duvall was up here before. He's my boss, and then we work together. And I report to him, and we lead the staff at American Farm Bureau to accomplish the goals of all these members that are out here, these grassroots members that give us our policy, give us the priorities of what we're supposed to go advocate for. We're supposed to talk to policymakers, supposed to talk to the public, do leadership programs, put on the convention, and we all work together to make that happen.
That's awesome, man. I know now we were kind of alluded to something as we learned a little more about you, that it was a story we were told we really needed to inquire about.
Yeah.
And there's this special 26 hours story that we were asked about. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we were visiting before. In my background, before coming to Farm Bureau 3.5 years ago, I had worked in agricultural policy for about 15 years in D.C., and I worked on Capitol Hill as a chief of staff for a member of Congress that's on the agriculture committee, and I worked for Secretary Sonny Perdue when he was Secretary of Agriculture in the first Trump administration. And so I'd done a couple things for him, but I was his chief of staff for the last 2 years that he was secretary. And one of the duties you have there is when you have a change in administration on January 20th, when you're sort of all your political appointees are sort of walking out the door and the new management's coming in, you hand over the keys. And so right at the end, we were getting ready. January 20th on its way, and it turns out the Secretary of Perdue had. He left a day early, basically. He had to resign. He had to move back home to Georgia, and there were some circumstances there. So we sort of off-boarded everybody else from the organization, all the political appointees. So they got to looking at the paperwork of who was going to be in charge, and we needed an acting Secretary of Agriculture for 26 hours. So you about 11 people down as the chief of staff, and the first 10 people were gone. So that was me for 26 hours. So it was an interesting time. You know, I can't say we got a lot done, but I did get a security detail, and I rode around in a black SUV for 26 hours, and so that was exciting. I got some good pictures out of it. So as you might imagine,
That sounds awesome.
yeah, all the commodity markets went up during my tenure.
I was going to ask,
very successful.
What all policies did you implement in those 26 hours?
Well, I had a lot of ideas, but when you only got 26 hours and you're about to get marched out of the building, nobody really listens to you is the problem. Yeah,
that is wild. I was wondering because we told her, we said, man, don't elaborate. We want to hear about it. So
yeah.
So you got to ride around in a cool vehicle for a little while.
Yeah. And you know those guys on the security detail, they're my buddies, so we all thought this was kind of funny and interesting. We had a good time with it.
Well, that's. You never know what life's going to throw at you.
That's right. That's right. I'm afraid I've peaked now, though, is the problem. So I got to worry about that, I suppose.
You never know, man. You might one day you might just be the Secretary of Ag yourself.
Yeah, well, or I come on the Talk Dirt to Me podcast, you know, and that's another. I'm moving up.
I told you the other day, when you put this on your resume, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, man, in our area, and we were talking to some other people, when you hear Farm Bureau, like at home in Tennessee, they think insurance.
Yeah.
And Farm Bureau is much more than insurance. So what is, because I've heard it say the voice of agriculture.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Yeah, well, as a lot of folks here know, and some of your listeners may know, Farm Bureau has its roots, over 100 years ago. Originally at the County Farm Bureau, farmers coming together and decided they needed an organization of mutual support, a way to, originally it was, there was an ag extension sort of component to it. And over the years, that grew. It became more county farm bureaus, more state farm bureaus, and that vision to be the voice of agriculture, to be an organization that brings farmers together, speak with one voice, support each other, and give back to their communities. That was sort of the original vision, and that's what it is today. That's what we do today. We do that at the state, the local, and the national level, and we do that. We do those three things. We speak with one voice, we support one another, and we give back to our communities at Farm Bureau. So that takes a lot of forms, obviously. Our staff, a lot of what we do, we're advocating oftentimes, a big portion of our staff. And then what we do, we do advocacy with public policy issues. For us at American, it's mostly, Congress and the White House and federal agencies and so forth. We do a lot of talking to the public. So exercises like this, how do we project the views of our members and the farmers out to audiences, non-ag audiences, and others to help tell that story, and then we work with members to help members be good at that. I like to say that as a paid staff person, we do a lot of setting the ball up on the tee, but the folks you see walking around here, they're the ones that actually go and they have those conversations, they bring that story forward, and they're the ones that actually, just like you guys, I was listening to the conversation before I came up, a lot of the issues you're talking about, sharing that story. What's the reality of farming? What's the reality of agriculture? What are the solutions we need? When that comes from somebody who's actually a practitioner of agriculture, who's in the business, that makes an enormous effect, out there, and we see it happen time and time again.
Yeah, one of the cool things we've kind of seen since we've been here is really how, if you're curious about Farm Bureau and you're like, man, I really, or if you see an issue and you're like, I would like to see something change here. And Bobby Lee and I both have said this has made us want to get more involved because Farm Bureau swings a big hammer. I mean, when it comes to agriculture, yesterday when we met with y'all, we were talking about the Maha movement.
Right.
And I voiced, as a row crop traditional guy, I voiced concern because, and I know some people, the boogeyman is glyphosate. I use glyphosate. It's one of the chemicals I use primarily in my operation. And I've heard RFK has said, going to get rid of glyphosate and all these other chemicals. And as a traditional row crop guy, that would be devastating to my operation if half of our technology was suddenly wiped out. And Mr. Zippy exactly said that he went and met with Trump and was like, we can't just get rid of these things, that it doesn't work like that. And so having Farm Bureau as a voice that can go, because I can't call up President Trump and tell him, hey man, let's talk. But there is an organization that can. And so, in terms of that, how does Farm Bureau come up with the voice? Because we were talking about how diverse it is. I mean, there are farmers involved in Farm Bureau that are probably staunchly opposed to the chemicals that I use. So how do you come up with that?
Yeah, we're the largest general purpose farm organization, so it is a big tent. It's everybody involved in every industry. It's farmers of all types, and we want everybody to bring their voice to that. We want everybody to be a Farm Bureau. If you're farming, if you support agriculture, you're interested in agriculture, we want you to be a Farm Bureau member. But that does bring a lot of diversity of views, certainly. And so a lot of folks you'll see walking around with a delegate tag here at our trade show, they're sort of the final step in our policy process. So, you guys are members of a county farm bureau, and you can walk into that county farm bureau meeting. You can have a policy proposal. It can be voted on. The county farm bureau come to the state, come to our national convention here, be voted on, and that becomes a policy. Farm Bureau, it's a very, it's a system that's worked for decades and decades. And then what we do is we go out and we tell that story, we share that view, we share that priority, and we advocate for those things. And as I mentioned, it's certainly, staff people that do that. It's certainly, you know, economists that we have on our staff and folks that we partner with at the state level, but ultimately it's members that do that. So you mentioned President Duvall going and doing things like talk to the President of the United States. Certainly he does that and others do that. But, you know, recently on a number of really critical issues, we took a lot of Farm Bureau members. We said, hey, we got issues 1, 2, and 3, and we have members across the country that are in that business and they have that expertise and they have a very valuable view on that issue, and they've gone into the White House with us. They've gone in the halls of Congress. They've done projects where they create things to talk to the public and share that from the first person point of view, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's cool that you can actually take guys that are in the dirt.
Yeah,
because that's our audience. Our audience is guys out there, and so they wonder these things, and like some of the questions we've answered tonight and talked about. I mean, what does the Farm Bureau, or what do you say to the guy that is struggling right now? I mean, where do we see the future of agriculture? I guess would be a better question on that.
Yeah, well, you guys were talking about it. I mean, it's been a big conversation about the farm economy and everything going on, and it's certainly tough out there. And I know that we just a moment ago you were talking, answer some questions about some of the experiences you've had. And I know at your last episode, I was listening, you were talking about just sort of doing the math on your own operation and whatnot. But one thing that I think is important is when you talk about, there's that effect of the individual, what happens the individual folks out here, what they're seeing. But what we spend a lot of time talking about too, is that there's an aggregate sort of public policy goal there that we need folks like you continuing to farm. We need folks coming into farming. We were talking a minute ago about your friend that was considering coming into farming. So that person needs a path to do that.
Yeah.
And then so say you were able to do that math on the back of the napkin with him, and it was going to pencil out. He still has to compare that to going and taking a job doing something else. I was talking to somebody earlier today that has a child, a grown child that's not come back to the farm, that went and took a job as a police officer actually. And so they're making that decision. And we need people making those decisions in a way that they come to the farm and they're farming, they're getting in the industry, because when you talk about it from a national security, public policy standpoint, there's no more basic building block for national security than a stable food supply chain. We've been, more successful than any country on earth in that over the decades, and we need that to continue. And so, we need that person you're talking about out here that's considering, staying in it or coming into it to be able to make that decision for sure.
And, kind of talking about the policy and kind of reflecting back on a question we had, obviously we're sitting here in the trade show surrounded by a lot of great companies that are partners with Farm Bureau, and companies that Logan and I, and probably just about everybody in this room, does business with somebody in here. But when it comes to policy, and and a lot of times what's good for the corporate side of ag is also good for the individual producer. But when you have one of those kind of touchy issues where, maybe what's good for one side, they're a little bit opposing. How does Farm Bureau kind of walk that fine line and still doing what's good for the partners on the corporate side versus what's also good for the individual producer out there?
Sure. Well, I mean, where we start from is what our members' policy are, or what our members' policy is. So whatever that viewpoint is that is expressed that goes in that policy book, that's the viewpoint we're going to bring forward. Now, how do we get to those solutions? That's going to take partnerships often. And there's, as you mentioned, you guys were talking about a symbiotic relationship between the whole ag industry and farmers. Folks that are suppliers or in food manufacturing up and down the supply chain, they need farmers. Farmers need them. So we need to find those solutions together and have that dialogue for sure. But we're going to advocate for our members' interest and go and have that discussion. And it's right. It's having that discussion. It's finding those areas where we can agree on those solutions together. And sometimes there's times you don't agree with somebody on the other side. So we do a lot of that. We do, on issue A, this is our perspective and it aligns with someone else. On issue B, we might have a different view. And we got to go and have a respectful conversation that way too, but advocate strongly for our members' views and push that forward with policymakers or whatever the other audience may be.
And I do feel like, not just saying this because you're sitting here, I feel like Farm Bureau does a pretty good job of kind of walking that fine line, because specifically within the cattle industry, we have a lot of industry groups, and anybody that's listened to our show knows that we have some groups that we strongly oppose a lot of what they do, because it does seem like that when there is an issue that has the individual cattleman on one side, and specifically usually just the meat packers on the other side, they side with the meat packers every time. And then you got the other groups, and we just can't all get along. And it's like, my gosh, but yeah, I feel like Farm Bureau certainly does a better job of kind of trying to figure out what's best for the industry as a whole. So
yeah.
Well, it's the same. It shouldn't be adversarial, but it's like you said, especially on the cattle side with the meat packers, it's kind of become that way.
Mm-hmm.
And because the average cattleman feels crushed,
right?
And price manipulation. I mean, it's been things that have been proven.
Right. And right now, again, it's, there's been all kinds of policy issues been trying to be pushed forth. And like right now, I mean, it's hard for the cattlemen to complain because things are good. But it hadn't been that long ago but just that frustration with, we got some groups that put on an image of we're for the cattlemen. And then you really look at what they're doing as far as pushing policy, and you're like, no, are you really? Because what you're saying and what you're doing are two different things.
Yeah.
Well, what I tell you guys is, for us, if the solution first is what that's what we got to reach, right? We got to find the solution, whatever that means. Our members are going to have the policy, but when personally, in my view, when you approach any kind of public policy conversation, you got to have trust, you got to have credibility. Those are things that are hard won. They can be lost in an instant.
Yeah.
And so you got to be tough, and you got to fight for your members' views, but you also got to look for ways that today we're going to be talking about one issue today. We're going to have another one tomorrow and next week and the month after that. And so, you name a couple of examples there. There's always, friction here and there, in the public conversation, and certainly in different policy viewpoints, and sometimes just personalities, right? I mean, so we got to navigate all that and eventually find a solution on not just one thing, but at any one time when you're the biggest general purpose farm organization in the country, and you're looking out for members that are in all kind of businesses, you gotta keep that in mind. We got to find those solutions on a lot of things and over a long view, because agriculture is an industry it's a long-term industry. You were talking about making some of these decisions. If you're farming, you're not just making that decision for this year. You're making it for the next 10 years. You're making it for the next generation, and so forth. So we view it the same way in terms of our advocacy too, to focus on that solution, find the partnerships when you can, maintain trust and credibility, and be aggressive advocates when you need to as well.
Well, and another real common question we get, almost weekly, when we have listeners write in, is how do I get into ag? And Logan and I have always talked about, hey, we love, producers like we are. We also point out there's other ways to be involved in industry. I think one area we've never even really considered, or made recommendations on is, guys like you, what would you say to a young person out there that, you don't have to be turning a steering wheel on a tractor or punching
like
cows
the
to be
dude that I
involved.
sat down with, like the guy that couldn't pencil it out, but he wants to get into ag.
Right.
Yeah, like getting into, more of the policy side of things. What's your advice to the young man or young woman out there that wants to be involved, and that may be their avenue, and we need those people, obviously.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the first piece of advice I give you is join your Farm Bureau and be a part of Young Farmers and Ranchers, and be a part of these other programs you can be, even if you're, you'll find the right place for you to be involved and support agriculture, and that's gonna open doors. But you were mentioning earlier that 2% number, 2% of folks farming.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people working in and around ag that are, they're your crop insurance agent, or they're working, at a dealership, or whatever they're doing. That makes about 4% of the population. So
Yeah.
And that 4% we got to hang together, and we need more people coming into that. And we got to attract people. So, join Farm Bureau and be a part of that. But there's a lot of opportunities, and some people end up in it by accident, walking in through open doors because they were involved in agriculture, and they got in something that supported agriculture. You know what? Eventually they were able to, when the prices come down, they can buy a couple cows and sort of make their way and get their toe in the water. And so, I think that's, get involved any way you can. But there's a door there for somebody.
Well, I think you hit on something too. I was thinking about when we're talking about like how do you walk that line. And I think one of the biggest things, I mean, we can't stress enough, join your farm bureau. If you want them to represent farmers, then you need farmers in farm bureau, which you were pointing out, the president has to farm. Is that what you were telling me?
What, say that again?
You were saying the president has to be a farmer in farm bureau?
Oh yes, yeah. The President Duval, he was on the stage just before us, and he was talking about his beef cattle and his poultry operation.
Yep.
And the bylaws of American Farm Bureau, or state farm bureaus and county farm bureaus, is that the governance structure has to be active farmers. And so he's our boss at American Farm Bureau, and we go out and staff people, we work for him. And I think that's really important. It's different from a lot of organizations that represent different industries, is that the governance has to stay with that grassroots farmer. At the end of the day, both in terms of the elected leaders, but then the members that are voting on the policy, they're the delegates, they're the board members, and all the rest. And that's really cool, I think. And it keeps us. It keeps us on track over the decades and into the future, that we're going to stay focused on the issues that are important to farmers and that represent their views.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you told me that, I didn't know that. I knew he farmed, but I didn't know that was a requirement. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, you were about to say something earlier, Bobby Lee. Did you?
I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Okay. I just saw you picking up the mic. I didn't want to cut
I'm
you
just
off.
happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, as we're not quite out of time, we're getting close. I did want to ask you, how do we see farming getting to a profitable place? Do you have any ideas for the farmers? Because again, I am legitimately concerned about my own operation, and I'm very concerned about others. So what do we do? How do we make this work?
Well, it's a complex industry, right? And there's a lot of markets, foreign and domestic markets. There's, you were talking about in being a row crop farming and the places that your product has an opportunity to go. So a lot of things we're working on out here, and lately there's just to name a few. For us, we've been working on the trade piece, of course. Because you're talking about the inputs early, and that's a big part of the equation. But that sort of demand piece with the depressed prices and all across basically every commodity out there, you need to create foreign demand. You need to create domestic demand too. And so that trade piece, we know that we've heard a lot of talk, and we've seen a lot of announcements of trade frameworks and whatnot. Well, taking those into their conclusion of actually making purchases and shipping product overseas, that's one thing we're intensely focused on, of course. And then the domestic market piece is important as well. So year-round E15. We've been fighting for that for years, and we're intensely focused on that because we think we're right at the goal line here on this one.
Yeah.
And if we can make that happen, that's a big deal, for in corn, because I think about a third of the corn crop goes to biofuels, and if you had year-round E15, increases that by about 50%. And so that's a big chunk right there, and that makes a big difference. And those are just a couple pieces. Whole milk in schools is another one. We saw that pass. After years and years of work, we saw that pass out here on Capitol Hill in both chambers of Congress, waiting on a signature from the president of that. That's a big coup. Just for not just farmers. Both those issues, E15 and whole milk. It's great for farmers in terms of demand, but whole milk, the nutrition it delivers to kids in schools and so forth, and on E15, the savings that the consumers get at the gas pump, the savings to the government as well. So these are little chunks that you can make, because we're going to need a lot of those solutions along the way. That's just two that I'd share with you, but there's more. There's more out there, in terms of creating demand and bringing down costs and all the things we work on.
Do you? I guess kind of one of our final things. Do you see positive change from the administration going forward for farmers? I mean, do you have a bright outlook for 2026?
Yeah, well, one asset I really truly believe that we have, both with the administration you mentioned, and then also our champions in Congress. We got all four corners of the House and Senate Agriculture Committee. They're going to be here during this convention. They're going to talk at our general session. We're going to have Secretary of Agriculture here talking at our general session. We got a lot of champions out there that are partner with us, are trying to find these solutions. As I mentioned, these are complex matters, and so that's a bright spot, I think. You know, we got complex problems. We got to unwind a tight knot on some of these, but you need people that are going to partner with you and really be leaning in to find those solutions. So I feel really good about that. You know, what the future holds. You know, we're climbing up a hill with the ag economy. We spent a lot of time talking about that here. You guys were talking about it before I came up. But that's a big asset. That's where you got to have to start. You got to have the folks that have the will, that want to work with you. We're really fortunate to have that. And we'll just have to go into the new year here and see what happens.
Yeah. It's always next year. Isn't that what you say?
Eternally optimistic.
That's right.
That's right.
Got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off?
What's that?
The Made in USA.
I don't have my phone, but yeah.
I know. We have a little segment we do.
We do a little segment at the end. You know, when we started this, like we need to highlight a Made in America product, and we normally highlight our former Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden giving his famous 2 words, "Made in America."
That's right.
Just 2 of them. But yeah, is there a Made in America product that you would put your stamp of approval on?
Yeah, well, you guys were mentioning this, and I was thinking about it, but beforehand, and what first came to mind, there's a clothing line that's called Duckworth out of Montana.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they're actually, go ahead.
And we've actually featured them before, but no, this is fine.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
So,
it's been 3 or 4 years ago, but yeah, absolutely.
We figured you had listened to that episode, but you hadn't caught it, I guess.
No, I hadn't. No, I hadn't listened. I'll have to go back and listen to it.
This may be too much information, but I'm wearing their underwear right now.
All right.
there you
Okay.
go.
Good to know.
Logan's just glad I'm wearing underwear.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think they're really cool because, of course, they're involved in agriculture and they have a cool story about how they, you know, it's sort of not just made, but sort of grown and raised and manufactured and sold. And so it's good stuff. Some of it, you know, can be kind of expensive sometimes, but it's good stuff.
Well, and that's true of anything made in America.
Yeah.
We actually have quit pointing that out, you know, whether it's clothing, you know, knives, whatever. A lot of times it does cost a little more.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, you know, just about everything we talk about, when you really look at it, it's worth it. And you know, just from, you know, the value you have in the product, not even to mention, you know, feeling good about supporting U.S. manufacturing.
Yeah, but if you're going to have a pair of long johns or something, that merino wool, man, that's going to hold up for years and years and years. You'll probably be giving that away to your kids, you know. And so I love that stuff. And they had a Black Friday sale, and that's why when you guys asked the question, there's about it was Christmas presents all around of Duckworth garments, you know, for us because I like it so much. So that's what I thought of. But there's others. There's others. You know, I like them, but there's others too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that is. Yeah, it's been a while since we did Duckworth. But
yeah, they were one of our early ones. Yeah.
That is a great one, and yeah, we've always we like to highlight Made in USA. It's a big thing we believe in.
Yeah. Well, and it's a cool thing. I think, you know, we talk. You know, I would just, since as we run out of time here, you know, that's another cool thing that we're seeing here with folks that are involved in agriculture, finding ways to market their product, have a little value add. I think they've certainly done that. But there's a lot of people here, a lot of our members that I've talked to that have really cool stories of thinking about how they can sort of capture a little bit more of that consumer's dollar with their operation. And, you know, that's something that's a big part of the future. And so, you know, I'd love to support them if I can. And we get stuff, you know, we travel around the country, and every farm bureau meeting you go to, you meet somebody who's producing something. So I end up spending more money than I should carrying stuff home from our members that have some cool product, whether it's something to eat or something to wear. So that's a cool part of agriculture right now.
It is, man. Well, I think we might have run like a minute long already.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we do appreciate your time coming and talking to us, man. It's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah, again, we appreciate you guys being here and being part of the convention. We hope you have a good time as you go along.
Oh, it's been a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to encourage our listeners and everybody. I think everybody here is a member, but our listeners, please go to the American Farm Bureau and check them out. Join, get involved. I mean, we definitely see the value in it, and we want to encourage you.
And for the folks here that have not been a listener until today, check us out anywhere, any podcast platform. We also put it out on YouTube, talkdirtpodcast.com. Check us out.
Yeah, we got stickers. Got a bunch of stickers. So y'all get you some stickers before you get out of here. We brought a little goodies. So did I give you one already?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the hat. What? I feel a little like I'm the only guy up here without a hat on.
We'll get you a gift package.
Yeah, I'll get a sticker too.
Yeah, we'll get you a shirt. We got shirts too. So, guys, we do really appreciate y'all, and we appreciate y'all having us here. It's a real honor.
Yeah.
All right.
And from a Tennessee Vol to a Georgia Bulldog, I'm just glad you didn't bark at me.
Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Thank y'all.
You've been listening to Talk Dirt to Me with your hosts, Logan and Bobby Lee. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you subscribe and leave a review. And we'll catch you next time